Dropping gems from Keisha Christian. She's on a mission, sharing information, knowledge for soul, body and mind. Dropping gems, KeishaGems.com. KeishaGems.com.
Welcome to Just Dropping Gemz, proud partner of Rude Rangers Entertainment. We can now be found on Roku and on the Rude Rangers app. Be sure to download the app on your iOS or Android devices. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Just Dropping Gemz podcast. I'm so happy, I have to tell you. I have an amazing guest on today. Her name is Alexis Haselberger, and she is a time management coach. We definitely need one of those in our lives. She deals with time management, and she's also a productivity coach. She helps people to do more and stress less, which I need. Through one-on-one coaching, group coaching, workshops, and online classes, she helps people use their time intentionally in service of their goals and values. Thank you, Alex, for taking time out to come on my podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here talking to you.
Yes, and I must say what struck me when I was looking at your questionnaire is the fact that you actually help people with time management. That is something that's so needed in our society today, especially with the fact that I look at women especially where we multitask and we do so many different things at one time. And the fact that we have coaches like you who are available to help with reducing stress and using our time more efficiently, because we all have 24 hours in a day, but learning how to chunk that time and use it to our advantage, I think is amazing that you're able to share those strategies with us and here on the podcast today to help us.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's really fulfilling work. And it is interesting because I feel like a lot of people, when I mention what I do, they're like, oh, I didn't know there was a person who could help with that, right? It's just like you said, so many of us are experiencing issues around this and just we've got too much to do and only 24 hours to do it. And yeah, it's so gratifying to be able to help people feel more in control of their time so that they can do more of what they want.
So tell me, what made you get into this line of work? Because I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, so I spent the first 15 years or so of my career running HR and business operations in early stage startups here in the Bay Area. And I realized over that time that one, there was, always way too much to do and never enough people to do it. And people were working crazy hours and burning out. And that was something that was one, like not okay with me in my personal life. And two, that's just something that I really had a skill in that I found that that I could share with other people. So, hindsight is always 20/20, but essentially, I was always really good at systems. I was always someone who was looking for like maximum ROI. When I was a kid and in school, I was always trying to figure out, well, how can I get straight A's but not go to class? How can I basically, do an excellent job but do it with the least amount of effort and stress? And I brought that into the workplace. And so I was always a person who really liked to build systems, not have a lot of redundancies around. So, building templates for things and, figuring out the most efficient ways to do things. And over time, as I was in HR, I would, help people when they were stressed with things or help people learn how to build task lists and help people figure out how do we prioritize what the right things are so that we can get the stuff that needs to get done, but also, go home at a reasonable hour and have a life outside of work. And when the last startup that I worked for went out of business, as lots of startups do, I realized that this time management and productivity angle of what I had been doing, even though it was never kind of a central job description of mine. It was not only the most interesting to me because I'm a total nerd and I love to read about this stuff and geek out about it and try to optimize my life, but it was also something that was the most impactful, it seemed, for the people that I had worked with. And then also just, the other side of it is kids. I had kids. My oldest is 11 now, and when I had kids, I also noticed that people around me who are also having kids and working full time were very stressed out, and I wasn't. And so I started trying to figure out, well, what am I doing that's different than other people? And I realized that it was all just about systems. And so I decided to see if this would be a viable business. And it turns out there is a lot of need for this. And so it's been a really fulfilling journey ever since.
That is so cool. I like the fact that you looked around you and saw the problem, and then you came up with the solution and turned that into a business.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so, I never imagined that I would be an entrepreneur, that I would start a business. But, once you kind of realize that, wow, you have something that comes pretty easily to you, that doesn't come as easily to other people and makes a huge difference in their lives, it became a kind of imperative for me to do it.
Oh, you know what? That's really, I like that what you just said. When you realize that you're able to do something simply and other people have difficulty with it and you could help them with it, you could make an impact on their life.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, when people work with me, one of the things that they say, almost all of them after we're done, is I feel in control now. And I feel like that sense of control, that sense of having agency over our own lives, and of being in control of what we're doing and how we're spending our time, like that's kind of what life is about, at least for me. And so to be able to help people get to a better balance of doing more of what they want, less of what they don't, and reducing that stress is super gratifying.
Wow. So can you share with our audience, what are some of the systems or strategies that you actually use to
Yeah.
help?
To help people. Yeah. I mean, one of the first things that I always tell people is never rely on your memory. Like we have too much to do, just like you mentioned before, women were trying to do all these things, but men too. But we've got a lot going on. And actually, I think the data shows that we have about 200 times more data coming at us every day now than we did 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not possible for us to intake that all and use our brains to remember all the things we have to do. And so instead, I advocate that everyone have a task system, which is a little different than a list, a little more complex maybe than a list, because a list, you can look at it and everything has the same visual weight and you still might feel a little overwhelmed. But to essentially put everything that you have to do. So not only all your big work projects, but also, the fact that the garbage has to go out to the street on Thursday night, and that your niece needs a birthday present next week, and that your passport expires in 7 years, like all of that stuff takes up mind share in our brains. And when we're using our brain to remember all of that stuff, it's actually much harder to focus on what we're trying to do. And so getting it all out in one single place is really helpful for people. And I also say single place, a single system, because I think a lot of people, they are writing this stuff down, but it is, they've got Asana for work and there's stuff in there, and they've got a paper list that's crumpled up on their desk somewhere, and you've got a bunch of Post-its, and your brain is still spinning with all of these things, and your email, like that's another to-do list, right? And so getting it all into one place really helps us to be able to prioritize things.
Oh, you know what? I never thought of that, because I do, like, while you were talking, I'm thinking about me. I have stuff all over. Like, I have
Right.
Post-its here, and then I have a list here in a notebook, and then, I have a calendar where I have my appointments on there and things I need to do. So
Right.
actually, now that I'm talking to you, I probably need to put all these things in one central location.
Yeah, I mean, it really, it's like, I think exactly like what you're talking about. Most people don't think about it. It's just like, yeah, we have all these inputs and, we have to deal with them. But I bet you sometimes feel like it's really, you're kind of grasping at straws all over the place, right? It's like you see something and you're like, oh yeah, I have to do that. And then you look at your calendar and you're like, oh, that meeting's coming up. And it's hard to prioritize. One of the, in terms of like what method do we use as a system, one of the apps that I recommend most frequently to my clients and beyond is an app called TickTick. It's TickTick. And this is a free to-do app that syncs up with your phone and your computer, and so you can access it everywhere. And it's just really simple to use. And so it has like a very low barrier for entry. And so that's, if you're going to start putting everything in one place, I would say that would be a great place to do it.
Oh, wow. I like that. Tick, tick.
Yeah, everyone wants to say TikTok, but it's tick tick.
Tick, tick. Like tick, tick. We're looking
Like
at
tick it off the list, right?
Yes, tick it off the list. Yes. Oh, I like that. So it's like a little like, because I remember as a classroom teacher, I did do time, because I'm thinking now things I did as far as time management strategies with my students when I taught in the classroom. So having a checklist, coming in the morning, and sometimes I was special ed teacher, so
Yeah.
even with my students, them having a system of, you have a checklist. Did you do X, Y, and Z when you came into this room in the morning? These are the things you need to do. So
Yeah.
it just
I mean, I love that because I think that we often want to separate the strategies that we use for children from the strategies that we use as adults. But
yeah.
honestly, they're all the same strategies, and we're just bigger kids now, right? And
Mm-hmm.
having the checklist, it's super important. I mean, I remember, it only took me one time of forgetting the breast milk at my house and then having to come all the way home from my office and bring it to the daycare for me to put a checklist for every morning what I needed to bring.
Hmm. I like this. So actually, now I'm like, oh, I could apply the same strategy. I never think to, we deal with children, like just like you said, to apply the same strategies I do with my students to myself.
Yeah, and vice versa. There's a technique for focusing and for sort of remaining focused on our tasks that's called the Pomodoro technique, and it's basically a timer-based technique where you set a timer for a certain amount of time, and then you just do a task or a set of tasks without interruption. You don't answer your phone, you don't check your email until the timer goes off. And this is something that I use with adults all the time, but I also just recently started using it with my kids for homework because it was something that made it more palatable for them. It feels like a lot if you have to, do a bunch of homework, but if you can say, well, just have to do it for 15 minutes and then I'm going to take a little break, that becomes much easier for people to handle.
And actually, I did that in the classroom as well because I had a timer. And I would
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so I'm like, wow, I need to apply this to myself.
Yeah, you need to think back to your teaching years, think about all the strategies that worked for your kids, and then see which ones can work in your life.
Yeah, because they love the timer, and they would try to
Yeah.
beat the timer and all that.
Yeah, no, and
Wow.
adults do that too. I'm like, I set a timer for half an hour, and I'm like, how many emails can I get through in half an hour?
Yeah, it became like it was like a competition. Let's beat the clock. And they used to be so excited when they got their work done or whatever they were working on before the timer went off.
Exactly, right? It's like it is so funny. It's like we really are just big kids. The same strategies work.
Yeah, so now I have to think back to my teaching days, my classroom.
Exactly.
Wow, that is so cool. Can you tell us about your online classes? Because it looks as though
Yeah.
you provide online courses. Do you have like a school online, or you just provide courses?
So I have an online course. Right now it's available through Udemy, and I can actually send you the link so that you can put it in the show notes if anyone wants to check it out.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely send that to
and
me.
so yeah, I'll do that. And it's called Time Management Mastery: Do More, Stress Less, and it's about 2 hours worth of content that really gives you all the highlights of really some really actionable strategies that you can use. And then I'm also in the process of building a new online course specifically for working parents because, we're as working parents, we face a lot more challenges around time than just those that occur in the workplace. And so I'm building that out right now, and that's a really exciting one for me too, because a lot of times I work with people one-on-one or in groups. Sometimes people don't have they can't take the time out of work to be able to meet with me and things like that. And so the online course is another way that people can access the content and learn all the things in a way that they can do it on their own time. You can do it at night or on the weekends, and that kind of thing. And it's also a less expensive option, obviously, than coaching.
Oh yeah, that's really good. So you give like there's like different tiers really, because I'm looking at it. There's different tiers to your coaching. Where you
Yeah,
have the
exactly.
one-on-one, then you have the
Yep.
group, and then if they're unable to meet with you, say like they're out of state, they could definitely just take your class.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I do all my coaching via Zoom, so I have clients that are all across the country because we just do it all electronically over Zoom via video chat, and so that saves time for everyone as well. Nobody has to drive anywhere, nobody has to get in the car, and so yeah, there are a lot of. I try to make sure that there's a wide world of people out there who all are experiencing the same or similar problems. And so
Mm-hmm.
I really want to make sure that the content and the teaching that I provide is accessible in a lot of different varieties. And so some people really want that one-on-one. Other people really benefit from being in a group with other people who have similar challenges to them. And then some people, they just are like, well, time or money and all these things. I just need to do the online course because it's quick and it's less expensive. And that's what I have right now, right?
So I like how you give all those different options. That's really cool. Do you actually work with people in different countries as well, or just the United States?
So I will be happy to work with people in other countries. I am in talks with some companies in the UK. I've so far really only been in the US, and part of that is because I keep pretty strict business hours for myself, and so somebody really has. Actually, that's not true. I had a client in Israel once, and so we found the one overlapping hour that worked for us in terms of timing. But I think that can be a little bit more difficult. My online course, though, I think 60% of people who have taken it are not in the U.S. And so that's pretty great too. I think
Oh,
it reaches people in about 75 countries at this point.
oh, nice. That is really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
So it's kind of great to see that these principles they apply no matter where you are and what your lifestyle is like.
that's really nice. You're also tell us a little about your books. You are also a published author as well.
No, no, I'm not actually. I write a lot of articles and things like that, but I have not, and I've been quoted in books, but I
Oh,
don't have any
okay.
books to date. I am in the middle of writing a book. I've been blogging for a long time, and my goal is to coalesce all of that information into a book at some point in the next few years.
Yeah, I could actually see you doing that, having like a time management book and some sort of workbook to go along with it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I do corporate workshops and things, and I have a workbook that goes along with that. And so, yeah, I really try to meet people where they are in whatever method that is.
Oh, that is so nice. So, can you tell us a little about any future projects that you want to share?
Yeah. So the one I think I mentioned before, but I'm most excited about is this online course that I'm working on for working parents specifically. And what I'm going to do is have an online component and then also have an option where people can have a weekly call-in live Q&A. So people can either just go for the online course itself, and it's going to be 8 separate modules, covering things from how do we handle all our communications like email and Slack and text messaging, et cetera. How do we prioritize? How do we really put together a task system? How do we create efficiencies, things like that? And then also including this option for people to purchase where they would have live access to me as well. So while the course drips out, they'd be able to have a weekly call-in where they could get live questions answered.
Oh, I like that. So you do like you would do a Q&A.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that, just as we talked about all the different modalities for people for learning, some people do really well just like plugging along on their own. And other people really, enjoy that community and they really like to have a little bit more one-on-one interaction. And so with this online course, the goal is it's going to be called From Survive to Thrive. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's all about how to take what can feel very difficult is, running a household and a family and having a job that you're really killing it at and trying to have some time for yourself and saying, okay, how can we take all these responsibilities and all these things that you want to do? And how can we actually find a way to, one, make it happen, and two, make time for yourself every day? Because I think that's super important too.
Yeah, it definitely is. Making time for yourself and making sure that part of the thing where I talk about holistic health is definitely all about self-care too, and
Yeah.
making sure that you're taking time out to love on yourself and to provide self-care for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's so important too. And, it was actually really interesting to me when I was doing a bunch of research before I started creating this online course and talking to a lot of working parents about their struggles and what they face. It was really one thing that was really interesting to me was that a lot of people just felt like they don't have time for themselves, they don't have any way to make time for themselves, and that they were really just resigned to that fact that they were like, well, this is just, this is the life I chose. I have kids and a job, and that's just it. So I guess I'm just not going to have time for myself. And so a big part of why I wanted to create this course specifically for these working parents was to show people that there is another way. Like you can have a fulfilling life and care for yourself and meet all your obligations to everybody else.
That is cool. That just sounds like a dream. So,
but it's possible. Like I'm living proof. I have time for myself every day.
I know, but I'm just thinking if some people would think. I'm just thinking how some people would think, but I know it's quite possible because like I said, some of the strategies that you mentioned, I actually did with my own students. So just thinking back, I have to think back to my classroom days because one of the things I actually did, especially with older students when I went private, was actually I did time management with them.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that with them as well, but it was applied to their schoolwork, so
right.
We just have to take those same strategies and now apply it to real life.
Yeah, exactly. And it is funny that just the parallels, like in my son's middle school, they do this thing where in the beginning of the week they give the kids a blank calendar. And then they give them, here's a list of all the work you're going to be expected to accomplish this week. And then they have them create their own schedules about how they're going to get it done. And, I saw this and I was like, oh my God, this is the same stuff I teach adults, Like, how do you Tetris it all in there?
Mm-hmm. Wow. And I used to do that. When I taught, I actually would give out, I used to do it weekly though. They got their weekly schedule, their homework and everything was on there, and then they had space to write in things. So I did the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's and I think a lot of times too, this stuff is possible, but it is sometimes difficult to get there on your own, right? Like you had to teach this stuff to your students. They are not going to necessarily figure it out on their own. And I think again the same thing is true of adults. Like time management, productivity skills, all this stuff. It's stuff that we're just expected to know in the workplace, but nobody ever teaches us. Like some of us figure it out and others of us don't. But, it's funny. One of the things that I get asked a lot when I'm doing workshops for companies is why isn't this stuff taught in college? And I'm always like, I don't know. It should be.
Yeah, you're right. It's not taught in college. It actually shouldn't even be taught in college. We
like high school.
Yeah, high school. They need to go. They really need to have a class on time management.
I agree. So if anyone out there is listening, we should team up and teach this class.
Definitely. Or maybe you could become a professor at a college or university and have a whole curriculum about time management.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I do think, there is just, it's so interesting that we just kind of expect people to figure it out, but we're not, we don't give people the strategies to do so. Whereas, everything else that, we don't put someone in a new job and just say, hey, figure it out. Like we provide them with a little bit of guidance usually, but not around the time management piece.
Yeah, definitely. That is so important. So, Alexis, I have to tell you, it was a pleasure having you on Just Dropping Gemz podcast. I had so much fun chatting with you. Do you have any final words that you would like to leave with my listening audience?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. It was really a true pleasure to chat with you here today. And, I would love to offer for your audience, if they go to my website, I have a free downloadable that they can get, which is about how to save yourself from distractions. And what we find about the data is that when we get distracted, it actually takes us about 23 minutes to refocus on what we were doing. So eliminating distractions or removing some of them is really important for us to be able to get more time out of our days. So if people just go to my website at alexishaselberger.com, a little pop-up will come up and that will allow them to download this Save Yourself from Distractions freebie.
Oh, definitely. And everyone, I just want to let you know that all of Alexis' information will be in the show notes. Her website, her social media handles, all of that will be in the show notes. So if you want to visit her website and get more information about her, this is great information she has. You want to visit her YouTube channel, all that information will be in the show notes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you and the information that you've shared today. And everyone, I thank you for listening to Just Dropping Gems podcast. Peace, blessings, and holistic health. This episode is sponsored by Dropping Gems Publishing and Dropping Gems Academy. Be sure to visit our website, www.droppinggemsacademy.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at droppinggems.com. To become a sponsor or advertise on this show, you can contact us at KeishaChristian.com or email us at info@KeishaChristian.com. Holistic health and much abundance to you.